Hi, everyone.
Hi, Beth.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly. We're just starting the stream. We'll start shortly.
Yeah, I was struggling to log in.
All right. No, I'm glad you're here now. Okay, colleagues, the time is 6 o'clock and we are live on YouTube as well. You may begin.
All right. Good.
Malachi, we're struggling to hear from you. Funzani, if you may proceed. Malachi, we're struggling to hear you. Can Funzani go forward?
Okay.
Okay, colleagues, I'm struggling to hear you. Maybe just for confirmation,
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
No, your connection is very bad. You are breaking apart.
Am I audible?
No, you're not audible. You're not audible. Funzani as well, I've been waiting for her to take over, but she seems not to be able to as well. We can move forward. Colleagues, thank you for joining us today.
Oh. Tapiwa, I'm not audible.
You are not audible at all. That's what I'm saying. Let's proceed. Funzani, if you can hear me, please unmute yourself. Okay, Funzani seems to be having issues. We'll move straight along. Our first speaker is Prudence Makhololo. She is the Deputy Treasurer General for APSIP National. She will say a few words of support and officially open the event. Prudence, if you may.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Prudence, and I'm the Deputy Treasurer General of APSIP National. And I'd just like to welcome everyone to this auspicious event that University of Limpopo is hosting. And as National, we do fully support all the engagements that the students are engaging in, and we fully support all the initiatives that you'll be partaking in this year. And yeah, welcome, and I hope you do enjoy this forum and have a lovely evening as well, enjoying this particular forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Prudence. Our first speaker, who is Ms. Beth Malachi. Without any further ado, Beth, please take to the floor. Colleagues, we will take questions after the first speaker and also questions after the second speaker. So I advise you please to type your questions in the chat box or the one that's written Q&A. If you can please type your questions there. I'll take the questions as soon as she is done delivering, then we can engage from there. Beth, over to you.
Thank you, Letabo. It's Letabo, right? Because I can only see.
Is Tapua speaking?
Oh, it's Tapua. Okay, because I can only see the APSIP Association on the on my screen.
All
but
right.
yeah, thanks for the opportunity again. Really appreciate it, and for putting this together. I hope everyone can hear me.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. So I'm just going to do a little bit of an intro about myself and what I do for those of you who are not familiar with what I do. I know the poster said I'm the director for Startup Grind Johannesburg. That is correct. But there's other stuff that I do as well. I run a company called Rebirth Wines. I've got my own wine and coffee label. So I am an entrepreneur myself, still starting out, just getting my feet into this jungle. And I also consult for a company called GoDaddy. I'm sure some of you have heard about it before. I'm the local representative for GoDaddy. For those of you who don't know what GoDaddy is, so GoDaddy is the world's largest service platform for entrepreneurs around the world. And so we on a mission to actually empower a worldwide community of about 19 plus million customers and entrepreneurs everywhere by giving them all the help and tools they need to grow online. So on a regular basis, part of my role as GoDaddy is to let people know how easy it is to actually get themselves online and create a digital presence that is, good enough for people to buy into their brands. Whatever it is that you want to create, even if it means you want to have a blog, or you want to create maybe a website where you're going to be selling stuff online. So that's basically what I do. I'm just going to switch off my phone. Sorry about that. Okay. So just to start, nowadays, and we've seen even now with COVID, a lot of companies where some were not online, but a lot of them were actually shifting online and at a rapid speed. And if your company is to become successful in today's market, you really need to be online. And for many, this is a given. But there are still some business owners who feel that the internet is not for them and that their customers still want that personalized service that they get when shopping in person or when they're getting the services in person. And at some stages, that could be true. But there's still a very small number of people who would rather shop in person, but technology is making it more convenient for customers to now start shopping online, to visit your website or learn more about your business, or it can be something as simple as Googling the location, checking operation hours or even the direction to where the business is. And by the time a prospective customer contacts you, they have already made up their mind, and they've already made the decision to purchase your product or services. And this is a result of smart technology making it easy for potential customers to research your products, your prices, and your business itself online. And as you can see, the platform that we're using now, we online. I've never actually met you. I don't remember meeting you. Let me just speak for myself. I don't remember meeting you, but I'm sure you've done your research. You've Googled me. You've checked the type of work that I do. And, also having digital presence is also more than just selling your products online, but it's also about growing your business and engaging a much larger audience. And one may ask, why is a digital presence so important, for your business? Some people are happy with the customers that they still get, the walk-ins that they still get from their businesses. But one of the things that I really love about it is visibility. So obviously, your small business can't be everywhere all the time. And with digital presence, it can. And your business can be seen by thousands of potential customers in search engines, on social media and in industry forums where people can learn what the business is all about. And then the other thing is authority. And, I've seen this before where if somebody doesn't take charge of what they say about themselves, their brand, or their companies online, they run a risk of getting somebody else who can just write an article about you. They actually dictate what it is that they can say about your business. You'd find that some information can't even be verified, And then the other thing is having a digital presence and using it effectively can also make you an authority in your industry as well. We've seen it, on other social media platforms like LinkedIn, for example. Some people publish, informative content online. They, some would post, demonstration videos like on YouTube, on Instagram nowadays, Instagram TV, or even on Twitter. And that's how you show your customers that this is how they can start doing business with you. And that kind of makes you to be more authoritative of your products and your offerings. And then the other one is first impression. So the first impression that the customer gets of you and your business is always the most important. But in the real world, we can't always control the impressions we leave with the customers as there are so many variables. But you can control your online image and the impression customers receive through digital presence. And I always say that a premium digital profile and attractive website will get you business noticed, and it will plant a good impression in the minds of potential customers. And then the other thing, which is the last one, is the fact that your business is available 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And your physical store obviously can't be open the whole day. Your store probably, you probably open for like 7 hours or 8 hours, and that leaves another 12 to 16 hours where you could be selling your products or, you know, providing information to potential customers. So when you've got a digital presence, that means that people can be able to see your business and your products any time of the day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days per year. And this can also double your profits as well and grow your business even when you're sleeping. And, you know, I always say that if you really, really want to succeed in today's world, you really need to start taking charge and learn these things. You know, there's so many information out there about how you can get your business online, literally just on your fingertips. There's so many information, there's so much information out there that we can tap into and then get ourselves online. I do know that we're gonna be hosting a website builder session with you guys, I think next week. I don't have the full details yet. I don't know if you've already shared the details with everyone, but that's also one of the exciting things I'm looking forward to, because you then realize that it's actually very easy to be online, especially nowadays where a lot of platforms use artificial design intelligence. You don't even have to worry about the copy of content you're going to write. Pretty much everything is going to be populated. So I'm sure the team will share the information and then we'll take it from there.
Okay, wonderful. Funzani, do you want to take the Q&A?
Okay.
No, your line is breaking as well. It's fine. I will read from the chat box. Okay, Beth, there's a question that says, what's your take on drop shipping?
Okay, maybe ask her to mute herself.
Yeah,
I really, is it me or is it?
Just give me a second.
Okay. Okay, so my take, yeah, my take on, oh, okay.
Sure, where's this coming from? Okay.
It's not me, right? Let me see. Let me move a little bit. Okay, I think this is better now, right?
Correct. Please proceed.
All right, cool. So the first question is, what's my take on dropshipping? Personally, I've tried to look at it.
You can just type in on the chat box.
All right, cool.
Beth, you can continue.
Okay, cool. I personally, I once had interest in drop shipping, but after reading a lot of reviews about it, is remember you are not in control of what's going to be shipped to your customers, and your reputation is also, you know, in the line as well. So if you are confident about the suppliers and you are quite sure that they will represent your brand very well, then, you know, go for it. But some products you'd find that, you know, they're not packaged. You're not in control of, you know, the packaging, what really goes into, you know, the packaging and everything. So unless if you've got a really, really good relationship with the person you drop shipping the products from or the company you drop shipping the products from, and you're quite sure that they will send the packages as they are described on the website, and you're quite sure of the quality, then that's fine. You can go ahead with it. And, you know, a lot of people, you know, they they do that. They're comfortable with it. But I heard that some companies, now the problem is the invoicing. If you've communicated with the company that you're getting the products from, that please make sure that the invoicing, if my company name is Rebirth, the invoice must mention that these products are from Rebirth, not that company, because that would mean in future, why should I then go buy from Rebirth if I know where the products come from anyway? And you'd find that the place where the products come from are probably cheaper, So yeah, if you communicate very well and say, when you guys deliver, just make sure those products come directly from Rebirth. You are not gonna expose your brand or your name elsewhere, then that's fine.
Okay. There's a question from Evidence and Maxwell. It just says, in regards to the GoDaddy platform, what are the requirements of accessing it? And Beth,
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, cool. Yeah, sorry to cut you. So you just go to www.godaddy.co.za, and then it will redirect you to a South African GoDaddy South African website. And then whatever products you want, there's always specials that they're running. The website builders package, you can trial it for 30 days and see if it's working out for you. You can even publish your website and it will run without you paying anything. Only when you're ready to now buy a package, that's when you can now start using the product. And then you literally just need your email address. You just create an account like you would create an account on Facebook or any other platform. And then there's other services there. Just check the website. There's other services there. There's always promos that they're running as well. If you stumble across them, just take that as just use that as an advantage to try the product out. And then but it's free to get a lot of products to kickstart with a lot of the products.
Okay, wonderful. Maxwell says, what advice would you give a farmer who's trying to go online?
Okay, I personally don't know much about farming, but it depends. Look, I've got friends who've got websites, and there was a time I was personally looking for, my mom wanted to buy chickens, and it was the time during the lockdown. And I literally Googled chickens, around Polokwane or around Limpopo. And I was quite impressed. There were quite a few websites, available, where I could buy those chickens from and some of the farming products from. So a lot of people are actually now starting to expose their products online. So if you've got the pricing, you've got obviously with, products like chicken and food, you need to obviously be sure of the weight, the size, and all those information, so that if you've put chickens online, I won't get surprises when I get the chicken. You'd find that it's a 4 weeks chicken. Now I thought maybe it's a 6 weeks chicken or something like that. So just be very transparent with the information that you put online. And then as for food, it gets a little bit tricky because even with my website, my personal website, I do sell some food items online. But with fresh food, it gets a little bit tricky. So that means you need to now put together, I mean, if it's food that needs to be frozen, you need to get proper delivery for that. Maybe like a frozen baki, or like those bakis that are fridge as well. And then the time frame, how long do I have to wait after I've ordered on your website? Will the food still be fresh when they get to me? And have a relationship with courier companies as well, So yeah, those are just some of the things that you can consider. But I would absolutely say go for it. If you've got a farming business and you'd like to be online, do it. A lot of people are now starting to do it.
All right. One of the last questions, we have Sandile. Sandile, if you can ask your question now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
continue.
Oh, I've recently opened up a business, and then what I've done, I think it's a mistake. I've opened up a business of wherein I sell clothes, second-hand clothes, like they call it vintage these days. So what happened? I opened like an actual store, a physical local store. So what I came across was that everybody is selling online now. So to me, it felt like a big mistake because of instead of opening up an online store, I opened up a physical store. So since everyone is going online, so I wanted to know what could I do to sort of maybe rectify that mistake that I think I've done since I've now opened up a physical store when everybody is going online.
Thank you, Sandila.
Well, I think the two are quite complementary. Some people, especially for clothes, some people still want to feel the quality of, the clothes. But then again, it also comes back to how best you market your products. So what are you doing? Like, are you pumping it up on social media?
Yes, I put it on social media, and then since it's vintage, like I work with like some local artists, they also put it out there, and then yeah, some models they put it out there. Yeah, the social media is the place.
Yeah, I hear you. The other thing is that these things don't work overnight. Hey, you constantly have to keep working at it and seeing what avenues your target audience is at. If your audience hangs out a lot on Instagram, then you need to put more effort on promoting it on Instagram. Word of mouth being one of them as well. Tell the people that are buying from you to be familiar with ordering the stuff online. And when you send newsletters, always give out maybe like a discount code to say, if you're buying from our website for the first time, you get 250 rands off, or you get free delivery and things like that. And it obviously it won't happen overnight. It's layers of you working on your website constantly and trying to see what works and what doesn't, and grow from there. And also, we tend to be very impatient, especially with technology, because we think that, just because Takealot is doing, you know, a lot of sales online, we can also sell as much online. So just do research around what can actually work. How do you communicate with the people that love or that constantly buy your products? Keep on working on that and see what works and just grow from there. But you really do need some level of patience. Hey, it just won't happen overnight.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Beth, for that. If we have more questions, guys, you can still send them in the chat or the Q&A box, and we'll get them to Beth to look at. Now, moving to our keynote address, we would like to welcome Mr. Maurice Madiba, who's the CEO of Cloud Atlas. Maurice, if you can come and maybe do a stronger introduction of yourself, and then we can get into the address of the day.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Tapio, for that. I thought by now you would know me a bit, given the time we spent together, but nonetheless, allow me to reintroduce myself. Greetings to Prudence from the executive, and to the other panelists that have joined today, as well as to everyone that's joined us from the University of Limpopo. And I'm here today to take out some time to talk about some ideas which are a little bit non-conventional, but also will give you some ideas in terms of investing, how to generate some wealth and store wealth. And then also just talk about, some other changes that may be required where a younger audience may have the energy to implement these type of things, and also that vision to implement the type of things that really can put Africa on the map. And why I say that is, as we were struggling in the beginning of this call with, technology and with connectivity, people's voices sounding like transformers, it just got me thinking that when you look at your surroundings, even at this direct call, even for myself, I'll take you through that journey. I'm speaking to you through a device that's manufactured in South Korea, over a platform that was created in the United States, and over a network and the technology of a network which was developed in China. And one would ask themselves, where does Africa actually have a footing in this world that we live in, and in the world that is to be defined? Given the fact that Limpopo is very close to my heart as a province, I really enjoy interacting with people there, spending time there, also just driving around. But there is also a very strong current of mathematical ability from what I've come across in the past couple of years. And it's a privilege to speak to people from the University of Limpopo. But when I look at the world that I engage in on a more regular basis, which is investment banking and the stock markets, there's almost no feature of Limpopo or no feature of Africa in total. And this is one of the things that needs to be addressed, and actually say, what are we doing to change that? What are we doing to make that reality different, and to make that reality, shape it to suit us and our objectives and what we're trying to achieve? And so, I can give you a simple rule of thumb in terms of investing, because once you do leave the sunny province of Limpopo and you come into Johannesburg, you find you're up against a lot of sharks. You're up against a lot of distraction and a lot of things that can take your focus away. And when it comes to saving and investing, even more, things are put to the table. And, when you look at the system and how it's designed, it's really designed that way, to bring you into the melting pot, into the pot of gold, and leave you with nothing at the end of the day when you exit the pot of gold. And the system, from that point of view, actually needs to be reworked. And it's up to us as young people to decide, how do we want to rework that? So I'll start by looking at a simple rule of thumb I've known for investing for some time. And if I give you some background on my company, it's Cloud Atlas Investing. We are an ETF issuer on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. We've got an African-based ETF, which looks at 50 African companies. And so, we're really opening up the Pan-African story and making that investment universe accessible to a lot of people. We've also now adopted and become a signatory to the UN Principles of Responsible Investing, because when you look at where the world is going, climate change is taking quite a huge center stage and taking up a lot of limelight now. And people are considering, when we're making investments, are we making investments just to generate a return? Or are we making investments that are sustainable and are going to lead to a cleaner and a better future? Because we can't keep pumping oil out of the ground and thinking that's going to fuel us for millenniums and thousands of years, when there's now other technologies that are being developed, which we need to harness. And I'll come back to the point I was making earlier about technology in terms of, how is Africa going to play a role in climate change? How is Africa going to prevent disasters from taking place in lovely places like Limpopo, lovely places like Kenya, like Tanzania, and a few other African countries that we're exposed to? Given that at the present moment, we've been forced to look at how ready are we to deal with changes in the world with what COVID has presented to us. So I'll start on a simple basis. When you look at the journey of a 10 Rand, or the journey of 100 Rand, or you can look at the journey of $100 bill. They always say that among communities, and particularly the Jewish communities, that money circulates about 60 times before it ever leaves that community. And so you've got a whirlpool of wealth that's just been created in different pockets of the world for these communities that exist together. And ABSIP is one such body which creates a community of people that are looking in financial services, looking at trading, looking at entrepreneurship. I myself am an ex-investment banker, but I'm an entrepreneur more so than I would consider myself a banker, and an accountant by what I studied. So it's really almost the same thing, but just different sizes of the meat. So rare, medium rare, and well done, if you can really look at that. So if you look at how money travels and how it works, you want to make sure that when you get out of university, you start being money savvy up until the point you retire. And a simple rule of thumb is this, which is of your salary, if you were to look at it as 100%, 33% is going to go to the tax man, whether you like it or not. 33% you should be investing, as they say, in different things. And usually these are people who will sell you unit trusts like Old Mutual, Sanlam and Alan Gray. And then 33% you should be spending. But the reality is, when you get out of varsity, coming from a challenging background and maybe not family circumstances which are set up for your success, you probably find that your salary goes more like 50, 60% to repay credit or pay some form of debt or credit, and then 30% going to the tax man. And then you're left with about 20% to spend, which you may or may not spend, and you probably send some of that money home. And it really then leaves you with zero. So in such a scenario, how do you actually create any kind of wealth or any kind of nest for yourself? And I think it comes down to the way that the system is designed. I don't necessarily think that credit is a bad thing. In fact, I think if you were to look at the entire financial system, it runs on credit. If you were to look at the financial world, it runs on credit. So credit is not a bad thing. It's there to help you out and to bail you out. Even during these times, South Africa is really relying on a lot of credit at this point to keep us under lockdown and keep the economy going and provide some sort of livelihood to the country. So in that scenario, you've got, I think, our first speaker really eloquently put it in terms of starting your business, getting your business online, because that is another form of wealth generation, which is actually owning shares. And to some extent, people may say, okay, you must own shares in the stock market, which is okay. You can always buy an ETF. You can always buy our ETF or other ETFs that are out there. But the other real wealth generator that people have is actually owning equity in your business. So if you were to start a business where you provide audit services, then you've really got a good chance of building a good life for yourself. If you're a doctor and you open up a practice and you own shares in that business, you've really got a good chance of building a good life for yourself. So in those two spheres, you've got one is generating wealth through your income and how much income you get. And then two is generating wealth through your equity and shares that you own. So I would say that, when you're looking at a scenario of coming out of varsity and building something for yourself, yes, be savvy, just be aware that in South Africa, the stats are such that we've got a 27% unemployment rate. And among youth, it's a little bit higher. So you're coming out of university with a degree, maybe in accounting, which would be good, maybe in economics, maybe in medicine, maybe you're coming out with a bachelor in administration or arts. It doesn't really make a difference. But you must know that what you're up against is you've got a 40% chance of not getting a job. And they say that in the Black communities, that number almost doubles. So when you look at that, it then becomes down to who do you know in the corporate world of South Africa that can potentially get you a good word in HR, or if you circulate your CV enough times, maybe somebody will pick it up and say, okay, can you please come work for us? But that's not the way that it should be in a country as resource rich as South Africa and as industrialized as South Africa, but it's the way that the system is designed. So one might ask, okay, fine, if I can't get a job, what must I do? Continue studying until I become a professor? I'm pretty sure you don't want to spend the rest of your prime in university learning something. I think you want to get out there, build things, and make a contribution towards a better society, and get paid for doing it while you're at it. So it would bring me to that point of saying that then you look at the other option, and this is an option that South Africa is in dire need of, is to have more young Black people participating in all levels of the economy. And this goes to manufacturing, this goes into technology itself, this goes into fashion and industry, this goes into medicine and opening medical practices, and even as technical as building equipment that is used in things like mining and sectors like mining, and sectors like healthcare, because a lot of that technology is imported either from Germany or from, in the recent decade, China and Far East Asian countries who have really invested a lot of time in educating themselves on this thing. And with South Africa, I mean, we're smart people. You can look at the country and you can understand that everybody is smart. But one of the challenges we have is, especially as young Black people, is that it's easier to operate in the informal sector than it is to get involved in the formal sector. And there's a number of reasons for that. The first one, which I cannot blame anyone for, is just the way the system is designed. If you look at South Africa, we've got the largest pension fund in Africa. They always talk about them in the news. The PIC is sitting on like 2 trillion rands. You hear of other funds like, the Eskom pension fund, you've got Transnet. All the SOEs have very, very large pension funds. But mind you, if you were to go and try to apply for funding there, you may as well walk into the Standard Bank branch or FNB branch and say, listen, I need funding for my business. Because the amount of detail and the amount of work what they require from you is almost insurmountable, that if you don't have the guts to stay for it, you're going to just walk away. So, I want to just drop in some radical ideas, to think about. And maybe as the youth, you can start thinking about, how do we actually trade? How do we trade not only our time and our skill, but also trade in such a way that we can build businesses of value, which can be strong, dominant forces in the formal sector, in the formal economy, where the president will be forced to talk about us or announce that we've given 2 billion as a relief fund because we've got that money. And these things are possible. So I would start by saying, organize and make a decision in terms of where you actually want your wealth to come from. So as a young man, and I think I was in grade 10, we had to do aptitude tests, and they told us, look, you can either be a doctor or you can be a stockbroker. And so at the time, you're exposed to some doctors, etc., and that field, but you're more exposed to accountants, because I think the GTI, when it came out, really had the CAs going crazy. And so the only thing you think about doing is, how do I get a GTI in an apartment in Sandton? And it's like, okay, become a chartered accountant. So it's an option that presented itself, and to make money in that, it's income driven. So then you would make a decision saying, I'm going to generate my wealth by earning income. So that means at your first interview, if you're being offered a job in an investment bank and they are telling you, well, how much were you getting paid at your previous job? And your previous job was some unpaid internship at a small firm, your chances of making a sustainable income from day one are going to be very muted. So you almost want to know your worth to a large extent, to say, okay, I'm young, I'm Black, I've got this qualification, I've got this degree, I'm going into the corporate world, and my just demographic alone is going to allow this company to earn some money. So I'm going to demand a salary of X amount. And I would say if you're getting into the investment banking world, that amount shouldn't be anything less than 400 or 450,000, I think. Actually, let's say 600,000 Rand per annum. So when you look at that, if you get that opportunity, take it. And because there's very few who are really going to make it into that industry, the investment bank. The second one would be to learn how to trade. So learn how the stock market works, learn how credit works. have a good credit record. You know, I used to laugh at a joke by Chris Rock when he was like, "You're so broke, your credit record is negative." So, you know, from an early age, if you've got that little bit of discipline about how to conduct your bank account and how to conduct some of your extra money, then at least it allows you to build a good credit record, so that when the time comes, the bank will even offer you and say, "We've got a 20,000 Rand credit card, we've got an 8,000 Rand credit card for you. Will you take it?" And best believe you need to sign and say, "Yep, I'm going to take it." Not to say you should spend the money immediately, but to have it there as a reserve and as a buffer. Because the second thing would be to know where to put money when you have it. And, you know, we talk a lot about the stock market, and that's my job. My job is to get people to put their money into the stock market, and more in particular to put money into Africa. And recently now to put money into responsible causes. So you're looking at a case of saying, when you have the money, where do you actually put it? Because you almost have to have a millionaire's mindset before you've even touched your first Rand or your first 1,000 in terms of actual money. So that when you do get that 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 or million, you know that, okay, I'm going to put part of it into a product on the stock market. I'm going to put part of it into a manager who I think is going to generate returns. I'm going to put part of it into my community because I can see where the world is going and I want to be invested in something like this. There's always entrepreneurs who come from the weirdest of circumstances, but they build some amazing businesses, and some of their businesses are just sustainable businesses, like, okay, just to sustain myself from time to time, but they're really aligned towards the technology of the day. And it's almost just a small step to make those businesses more formal and to really address a greater need and become a Mark Zuckerberg of the day, if I can call it that. So how do you, it may be difficult to say, where do I put money in my community now? If I think of Limpopo, it's beautiful. There's so many entrepreneurs I actually know from there, more than anyone else. And yes, they have their challenges. Some of them, when they come to Joburg, one of my partners actually in our asset manager, Mr. Mishak Mulawudzi, he came to Joburg, or when he started Varsity, he couldn't speak a word of English. So he would only speak Venda. And he was like, the way he learned English was just to speak really fast. So anytime you speak to him, you think you're speaking to a tape recorder and fast forward. But it was just his way of being able to communicate and get over that barrier, because he knew, I want to become a chartered accountant, I want to become a businessman, and I need to be able to communicate with people here. But when I look at the business that he's doing now, something so simple, which he started just to support his family, he got into the retail space. And, you know, I think of somebody else, Tabo, who also is from Tsanin, got into the delivery space very early on and said, look, I want to start delivering goods around here, and literally started his business like that. And now you can think of how many people he employs during these times of COVID, where delivery services have just shot through the roof. He also delivers about 12,000 eggs a week of Azul to communities in Limpopo. So these communities of ours, yes, I think the first thing we must do is acknowledge that they are our communities. So it is up to us to develop them. It is up to us to change them. We can't be seen to always be going to Sandton and developing Sandton. I mean, I was in Sandton the other day, and it's just amazing how many buildings are there, etc. But when you think of on whose back are those buildings built, are those fancy restaurants established, those fancy properties, it's on the backs of us as ordinary South Africans. And when you leave the bubble of Sandton, if I can call it that, and you return to your communities and you see them in a complete state of disarray, I think it needs to inspire something to say, okay, well, what can I start doing from today? Firstly, to help out my family, maybe extended family, and then maybe just developing or building some kind of business. I'll give you a simple example in Kenya. I mean, Kenya has absolutely no commodities at all. You will not find gold there. You won't find diamonds. You won't find coal. You know, you won't find all of these expensive minerals that we have as South Africa. But people there somehow survive, and their economy has been growing by 6-7% a year. It's a simple thing that they learned how to trade and also learned how to engage with urban and semi-urban and rural areas. So a company that we invest in, Safaricom, has an interesting technology from about 2008 actually, called M-Pesa, whereby people who have office jobs and work in the city are able to send money back home to their relatives, and also those who have farms or are fortunate to have farms to send money to pay their laborers. So what started out as a simple concept of cash for a code or an airtime code evolved into a downstream business people didn't even think about, is to say, let's set up a spaza shop or a small grocer, green grocer, you know, just selling bread and Stay Soft and even wires, whatever we can find. We just sell basic things. But on the back of that, we supply this M-Pesa thing so that people can get cash from us and it's a safe location. So that grew from a couple million to a couple $100 million. And I think today it moves about $3 billion a quarter. So in a year, it can do about $12 billion back and forth between those two areas. Now, South Africa, we tend to always defer technology, and we tend to defer the bigger picture and the formal stuff to big business. And it's just as a result of what's happened in South Africa over the years, whereby you've had monopolies. Literally, it is almost like we're entering the industrial age, the way we have so many monopolies in South Africa, even in the retail space, in the telco space, etc. So everything always seems big and insurmountable, and like it should be done by another firm, or it should be done by the Chinese or the Europeans or the Americans, when in actual fact it's something that should be done by us as communities in this country. So that's the one thing, is how do you get into an organized group whereby you can start looking and identifying projects and bringing them to a stage where you can say, okay, we've identified this, maybe let's look at rural land. I mean, when you look at the value of rural land, nobody actually knows, when you look at home and you go there, how much is this piece of land worth, you know? Because if you were to do some shopping in the Sandton areas and these fancy areas in Joburg, they would tell you 1,000 square meters cost you R1 million, you know? And then you think back at the village, you got 10,000 square meters, but nobody even has a value for what that is worth. And, you know, I think that's one of the things to look at, say, how can you organize yourself and build a asset base or a base of resources that you can then use to raise credits and also invest in. So I think I'll leave it at that. You know, you're young people, you need to be inspired. I want everyone to be invested. I want everyone to know what's happening in the stock markets, all of these big companies that you support. You know, I want you to look at these companies and say, is this company in my community? How can we make it better? What can we do for ourselves? And once you've organized yourselves as a community, then there's an easier way to say, okay, let's formalize this thing. Let's register a company, get our tax numbers, whatever, appoint directors, and then let's go to the likes of the big pension funds, because they're there, they're waiting for you as Black youth to come up with business and to say, we require some funding. We want to change this area of our community, and go knocking on their doors until they drop 100 million or 1 billion into your lap and give you money to be able to mobilize the change in your community that's required. So that's where I'm going to leave it. You know, very smart people on the call, and, you know, panelists, thanks for allowing me to address the crowd.
Thank you, Maurice. That was very insightful. You have triggered a lot of questions now. I don't know if you can see the questions for yourself, or you want me to read it for you. It's in the Q&A.
Okay, sure. Please go for it. Yeah.
All right. We have Max Malinga. He asks, how can we as young people de-risk ourselves for investors and financiers? Any advice on presenting yourself as more bankable and investment ready?
Yeah. So when you look at the de-risking, it's an interesting thing because part of that de-risking is very systemic. So if you look at insurance, as a young investment banker, I bought a car. It was not a lot, quite expensive, but when I applied for insurance, they ask you a whole list of questions about where do you stay, does your car get parked, do you have a tracker, etc., etc. And I found that my premium was already starting at maybe 1.5, 1,500 Rand. And I'm thinking that this is, it's ridiculous. So there's a part of the system which already assigns a risk to you based on historical, narratives or performance of the demographics. So if you're a black male, you're a higher risk. If you're a black female, you're slightly lower risk. If you're a white male, you're low risk, almost no risk. If you're white female, also you've got a low risk profile. So when you look at de-risking yourself, I think the basic things you can do is what you can control. So you can control your conduct of your current account or your bank account to make sure that every month when that's 50 Rand or 150 Rand goes off in bank charges, that it doesn't leave your account in negative. And then when you get your income, you don't go and withdraw it all in cash, because those are the type of things that the banks look at based on their metrics and then say, this is somebody who is slightly risky. This is someone who's maybe less risky or conducts themselves well. But you are up against a system that already says you are a risky person. The other thing would be, I think the main thing is how do you create your, we're talking about digital profiling. How do you create a digital footprint of your financial behavior? Because that's the first way that you can de-risk yourself.
Okay, all right. Molatelo, is it safe to say that as South Africans we have a lack of skills and not employment crisis, and also maybe looking into where we're going into the 4IR? What's your thoughts on that? Yeah,
in South Africa, we have a lack of experience. I really doubt we've got a lack of skills. In my interactions and even in hiring people, etc., there's no lack of knowledge, no lack of, academic prowess, no lack of innovative thinking, etc. I think we've just got a general lack of experience. And it comes down to, how do you develop that experience? Do you go work for a corporate, a small business? Do you go work for government? Do you start your own business? So, when you look at 4IR, if you think of what South Africa actually has and contributes to that, we've got a lot of those minerals that go into a 4IR and that will potentially also go into the 5th Industrial Revolution. But in terms of being able to process them, our strategy, and maybe it comes from government, maybe there's been entrepreneurs who've tried and failed, but our strategy is just to extract things from the ground and then sell them to China. I mean, I can't think of any slower strategy that's going to hinder your growth than that, So we don't even have, if you were to try to buy gold in the land of gold, just see how difficult it is to actually just go buy a small nugget or small bar of gold as a South African. Yet we've got the world's largest gold reserves. And then you'll understand that, our strategies have been skewed to saying, let's take things out of the earth and then sell them to the highest bidder. But, our funders and our money, the money really comes from banks and comes from pension funds. And those type of funders don't like risk in a country like ours, which is an emerging country. And it just doesn't make sense because it's a mismatch to where we are. I mean, you're better finding off investors in America than ones here to help you get that experience. But we lack then the funding to be able to gain the experience that were needed to develop the industries that will then alleviate things like unemployment and those type of things. So SA has it, the funding structure just needs to change. Maybe we need a young people's bank, that just funds us to be able to get that experience.
All right, that is really profound, Mr. Madiba. Maybe lastly, you could touch on what could a young person right now who is at home, who is maybe fortunate to even have internet connectivity to do and try to make ends meet in this time, in this pandemic?
Yeah. So a simple thing is, you've got access to the internet, you've got access to information. There's a lot of things you can self-learn. There's a lot of content you can then create from that self-learning and start marketing. Digital marketing is something that our panelists earlier spoke about, and that makes a lot of money. Learning a skill and providing that service to people online also makes a lot of money. And then, I would say setting up your business. At this point, if you are sitting at home, government is not helping you, nobody seems to be funding you, school is not helping you, corporate is not helping you, then you need to help yourself and start a business and say, this is what I'm going to do. Register your company, pray about it. If you've got some dreams, put them on paper and then start your business. You won't know where it will take you, but you will definitely have one thing at the end of the day, and that's experience, which is very valuable.
Wonderful. All right, looking at our time, we have to cut it short there. There's lots of questions that are in the chat box. We'll definitely send these to you maybe via Twitter. You can respond there. So participants, just look at our Twitter tomorrow whilst we continue with the question and answer there. All right, I'd like to take this opportunity firstly to thank the chairperson and the secretary of University of Limpopo. It's unfortunate that they could not stay long on the call or communicate very well because of the connectivity. However, they are there and listening. We thank you very much and we appreciate your efforts to your constituents that they're benefiting. I would also like to thank Ms. Makololo, who's the ABSIP Deputy Treasurer, for making the time and effort. To Beth and to Mr. Madiba, thank you very much for engaging our young people. Hopefully they've picked up one or two things they need to assist themselves in navigating this pandemic and in life in general. If it was a normal day, we'd be posing for photos, going for dinner and stuff like that. But for now, we'll just have to say cheers over online. So with that said, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for attending and we'll see you at the next event. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.